An explosive new report by The Atlantic has revealed that Elon Musk's time in the Trump administration was real messy. Real messy, more messier than we thought. So here's the most dramatic example. In April, Elon Musk and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent were feuding over who would get to pick the head of the IRS, the person to lead the IRS. That led to a fight in the West Wing in which Bessent reportedly yelled the following at Musk, saying, I can't say it, but he said the whole word, F you, F you, F you, which is kind of unbelievable because if you've seen a single interview of Scott Bessent, he's like the calmest, most monotone guy on the planet. But apparently, Musk set him off and he started screaming at him. Musk accused Bessent of having run 2 failed hedge funds, quote, I can't hear you, he told Bessent, as they argued, their faces just inches apart. Say it louder. The exchange was symbolic of Musk's time in the White House. He wanted to move fast and break things without answering to anyone, The Atlantic writes. Rather than taking the time to navigate and understand the quirks and nuances of the federal government, Musk instead told his team to move fast. It would be better to backtrack later if necessary, than to proceed with caution. I mean, we're just talking about government programs that impact people's lives. But let's just break it, and then if we need to fix it, we'll fix it later. I mean, we're talking about the Social Security Administration, in which field offices were shut down. By the way, I think Georgia was impacted the most. They had the most number of field offices shut down as a result of what Elon Musk was doing. You know, Elon Musk is the richest man on the planet. He doesn't need to rely on Social Security to get by in his elderly years. But for elderly Americans who do need to rely on it, too bad, we broke it, maybe we'll fix it later. One administration official told us that Musk's view was that if he hadn't fired so many people that he needed to rehire some, it would mean that he hadn't cut enough. Like, you should fire more than you need to, and then later you can rehire if it turns out you went too far.
Yeah, because messing with people's lives like that, no big deal for him. I mean, he's the richest man in the world and he already bought the presidency. So, he gets to fire any of the masses that he likes. And maybe we'll rehire him if it was unfair. Maybe we won't. Who cares? Their lives don't matter. Their careers don't matter. Their livelihood doesn't matter. Only he matters. And this whole philosophy from Silicon Valley of move fast and break things, if you're not familiar with it, it might sound weird because it's weird. But what it means is in the business world is, hey, don't worry about following all the rules and etiquette perfectly. Just keep going, grab as much of the market share as you can. You'll figure out how to monetize it later. You'll figure out how to do it right later. You'll put in processes later. But the most important thing if you want to establish your company is to grab as much market share as you can, in the beginning especially. That's why they say move fast and break things, right? Don't get stuck on little things. I understand that philosophy, and in the business world, you can argue with it, you can say it makes sense in some contexts, but in the world of the government, it makes no sense. When you break Social Security, just because you wanted to move fast by closing down a whole bunch of Social Security offices across the country, that's not acceptable. That's not your money to mess around with. When you take money away from Medicare as they just did, right? No, don't break Medicare and figure it out later. When you fire hundreds of thousands of people and say maybe we'll rehire some of them because we know we broke things, we broke those people, those human beings. But what's the big deal? They're not even rich, right? No, I hate your cavalier attitude. I can't stand it, and it's dumb. And all of this, by the way, smears populism. Because these are fake populists, billionaires who don't care about the average person at all, pretending to be populists. And so I don't want to empower the Scott Bessents of the world either. Right?
No, Scott Bessent is, I mean, he's been part of the problem for a very long time in this country. So I didn't really have any hope hinging on Scott Bessent. But in regard to Trump's tariffs though, like the crazy astronomical across the board tariffs, Bessent's a capitalist, okay? They don't like these tariffs. So I don't know what he's saying behind the scenes, but I'm not under any impression that he's co-signing to what Trump is wanting to do with tariffs across the board with some of our top trade partners. Okay, let's talk a little bit though about the time that Elon Musk essentially told federal workers, you need to report to me every week, tell me what you did that week so you can justify your job. Well, an anonymous Trump advisor stated, how many people were fired because they didn't send in their 3 things a week or whatever the F it was? I think that everyone is ready to move on from this part of the administration. Now, one of the more interesting revelations, though, has to do with what Trump had to say about Marco Rubio, who was also, of course, feuding with Elon Musk behind the scenes. So they brawled a little bit. When the New York Times reported on a meeting they had in which they had a bit of a shouting match, they noted a big showdown between Musk and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Musk complained that Rubio had fired no one other than a Doge employee. Rubio said Musk was lying and asked if Musk would like him to make a show of firing more workers only to be forced to rehire them again. So Rubio was kind of like mocking what Musk was doing. Musk was unimpressed. He told Rubio he was good on TV, with the clear subtext being that he was not good for much else. I'd like to say that they're both terrible on television. Like, they're not charismatic figures, they're awful. The exchange allegedly lasted for an uncomfortable period of time, and the Atlantic's reporting has given us a pretty damning insight into the exchange. Quote, that was one of the turning points for Trump and Marco, where Trump realized Marco had a little spine, one Trump ally told us. Okay, let's pause there. So Donald Trump appointed someone he believed did not have a spine to be the Secretary of State?
Well, I mean, think about why he was appointed, because Miriam Adelson gave so much money to Trump, and Marco Rubio is a neocon, and Miriam wanted him to be Secretary of State so he could represent Israel instead. So to be fair to Trump, it's a fair assumption that he had no spine, because all he does is work for his donors and other governments, not ours.
True,
right?
True.
So that's why I would have been surprised too that he called him Little Marco. I used to call Marco Rubio a boy. Right? So I'd be surprised if the boy had a spine. And it turns out, at least with Elon, he did, which I'm fairly surprised by.
Me too. Now, Rubio was not the only one to slam Musk during the meeting. The Atlantic described what transpired as a pile-on. But according to Steve Bannon, that meeting wasn't the final straw. So he told the Atlantic that the Musk fever officially broke when it was reported by the New York Times that Musk would be getting a secret briefing from the Pentagon on China. In Bannon's view, government officials had opted to leak to the Times rather than directly confront Musk or bring their concerns to the president. A troubling sign, he told us, of Musk's outsized power. And we know how Trump feels about anyone around him that has outsized power.
And so does Steve Bannon, because Steve Bannon thought he was in charge in the first term and said some things he shouldn't have to an author. Next thing you know, he was out and hasn't come back since. So apparently the note there is watch your mouth. And by the way, I don't like that Trump firing people over his ego, right? But I mean, this is kind of an ironic kind of credit to Trump, which is that he does have an actual team of rivals in there. There's been a lot of fake team of rivals, but these guys really don't like each other. and they were at least in there for a while. So one last thing, it drives me crazy that Musk pretended to go after waste, fraud, and abuse, and then he blindly fired innocent people without even checking to see if there was waste, fraud, and abuse. So when you move that fast, that means by definition you have no evidence. And he fired the newest people that had come into each of the offices, right? So that, again, by definition, they didn't do any waste, fraud, and abuse, they just got there, right? And you didn't bother checking. So he fired all of these innocent people. And I don't know how that's populist. I don't know why people think that is anywhere within planets of populist. It isn't, it's a bunch of rich, I'm gonna add a lot of things, okay, but spoiled little children brats like Elon Musk playing house with our government. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.